Welcome to the Thin Blue Line Outdoors Podcast.
This pig came bottling.
Just ended up puking last night. It sucked.
Whoa! Ah! We gut it, we wrap it in tinfoil, throw it over the fire.
Hey everyone, hope you're ready to listen to this podcast with 365 Thermal. This is Cody, just giving you guys a heads up. For some reason, the podcast recorder did not record the first 2 minutes of our conversation, so the audio is a little echoey at first, but then it kicks in and then it's good. Hope you enjoy this podcast. All right, everyone, it's a Thin Blue Line Outdoors Podcast episode, I believe, 104 or 105. I think it's going to be 104. So I'm here with Wade with 365 Thermal. If you guys have been watching our vlogs or anything like that, you've been seeing his logo flash up. So Wade came in. I know we've known each other since 2015 at the Part-Time Police Academy, so it's been a while now. Almost 10 years, I guess. No, it was in spring or summer, I think is when we started.
Yeah, spring.
Yeah. So obviously life has taken us different ways, but here it's cool to meet back up with you, and how we're both kind of starting. I knew then we both talked about hunting in the academy, and now it's kind of funny how our passions have brought us back together, and it's just awesome to talk to you, and we appreciate you coming on board and, supporting our mission and all that good stuff, getting first responders in the outdoors. But number one, if you just want to introduce yourself and kind of talk about how you got into the thermal game.
Yeah, man. Well, my name is Wade Bryan, as he said. I'm the sole owner of 365 Thermal. I just started actually opening, I'll say probably November, we'll go with, of 2024. So I'm new to it. Not necessarily new to the thermal world, but new as a dealer. So authorized dealer for AGM and Ricks at the moment, hunting lights and tripods also, different brands. But always expanding and trying to improve on inventory and stuff like that. But honestly, I just got started more or less as I alleged to as a user. So that's what I was doing. I started out like a lot of other people, just day hunting and stuff like that. And I'd see these guys on there with night vision and thermal optics. I was like, man, that's pretty sweet, And I was just like, well, how much does that stuff cost? And then I was looking into it. I was like, all right, so that might be a little bit out of my budget. So then I started with lights. And, again, the night thing is just more effective because that's their natural movement, you know what I mean? And it gives you an edge too, because if you have the cover of darkness, a lot of times, even just a quick thing, a lot of times the difference between a full moon and it being completely dark at night, what a lot of people don't realize, it's not just the fact that it's a full moon, you're like, oh, they're not going to be moving. No, they still move, but they don't have to commit to a field for your call that's out there in the middle of the field when they can see completely across the field. Because if you and I can see, clearly across field, they don't even have to think about it, But back to where I started on that. So after I got into lights, I was like, I'm still needing to improve on this. So then I did night vision thing. I had just a night vision scope, and I tried just scanning with the scope, and that sucked. There's a lot of people that still try to do that, and I mean, if that's what you have to do, it's what you have to do. And I just bought some cheap little night vision binocular off of Amazon, and I was just like, whatever, it's cheap, it'll work. And it did. Honestly, it kind of worked out. I used that for a little bit, and it started to crap out pretty quick. Like I said, it was something cheap. I think it's maybe $100. Yeah. And so then I went to my first thermal, which happened to be an AGM Taipan, one of the cheaper ones that I wouldn't even carry. But it was just to see a heat source. But using that, I could tell a huge difference, between the night vision and thermal, and, where they kind of evened out what was better. And so I will say that they both still have their places, but I knew very quickly that thermal was a little bit more superior. And so I started getting more and more into it this entire time. I'm having more success while I'm hunting and everything. I'm, trying to improve my tools, so to speak. So, I'm like, all right, well, now what am I going to upgrade to? Because, this thing will see heat, but I can't tell what anything is. Yep. Which is okay. I'm starting out. I mean, that's kind of the name of the game. If you're on a tight budget, you scan, pick up a heat source, get on it with your scope, verify, and there you go. Yep. And that's still a very viable option for a lot of people on a tight budget. So I will say that. But if you have the means, you always kind of want to upgrade to that next point, you know what I mean? And especially if you're big into it, you want to keep going, you're obviously a hunter of many
Yep.
things, you know, look at all the deer hunters, you know, everybody wants the new bow and stuff,
Oh,
the
yeah.
brand new saddle and all this stuff, you know.
I own 3 saddles right now. I have no need to own 3 saddles, but I own 3.
Yeah, and I think I have 4 compound crossbow or
Yep.
compound bows and a crossbow.
Yep.
And you know what I mean? It's just like I could use one at a time,
Yep.
you know.
Yep.
But again, they're useful tools. The crossbow, I never once had one until I had back surgery and I couldn't use my compound bow that year. And I was like, well, dude, I'm going hunting. And
Yep.
so the doc's like, have you ever thought about a crossbow? I was like, not till now.
Killed a big one that year, right?
I did,
I
yeah.
do remember seeing the video of you in the blind. Yep.
It was kind of coincidence because, you know, people are like, oh, yeah, cross gun. But I shot him at 25 yards.
Yeah.
And I would have done it with my compound. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? That's the way it worked out.
I absolutely don't blame anybody. Okay. Sidetrack a little bit. I got a lot of team members who hunt with a crossbow, and then I got family members that do too. I like giving them crap. I'm going to keep giving them crap because it's fun.
Yeah.
But in all honesty, when somebody gets an injury and goes to a crossbow, I don't give them any crap because I get it. But then if you go back to it, I'm still going to give you crap. Now I'm okay with, like, I hunt with what you want. If it's legal, hunt with it. I just enjoy, you know, we like shit talking. So, you know, it's fun.
And I can kind of agree. So prior to that, I was not really gung-ho about it, you know what I mean? Like anti-crossbow kind of a guy, you know? But it was just something that I wasn't going to consider. I was like, I love my compound bow, you know? Bow hunting. I didn't even gun hunt for 10 years, you know what I mean? That's all I wanted to do was bow hunt.
Yep.
And then whenever that happened, I was like, shit, man. I was like, now I can't bow hunt. And then Doc brought that up, and I was just like, but I can.
Yep, you
and
can.
so, you know what I mean? It was something that was more or less necessary to continue to do what I wanted to do. And that being said, after using it, I was like, you know, these aren't that bad. And it's not just the fact that I had to use it, so to speak. But even afterwards, I'm still thinking, I'm like, if I'm sitting in a deer stand, majority of the time, that crossbow is not going to be any better for me than my compound bow. And in fact, it's a hindrance. If you try to shoot behind you in any sort of way,
Correct.
it's not going to be of much benefit.
Especially out of a saddle. So
Yeah.
I don't know. Our team member, Cody Gravitt, that you know.
Yeah.
He had issues with it this year. He missed a doe with his crossbow. The first doe, I might be getting the order wrong. Yeah, I know very back-to-back like nights, he missed a doe and shot a doe, and I don't remember which one came first. But one of his shots, he didn't realize his limb, even when it's pulled back, it's compressed. But he realized, you know, once he shoots, it's going to expand and hit his rope. And so he luckily didn't break his crossbow, but it did make his shot go low right. So it's, as much as I don't like crossbows, but like they are a hindrance in some hunting ways. And 100% compound bow or recurve bow is easier to shoot out of saddle than a crossbow, in my opinion.
Right, for sure. And see, on the opposite end, I feel like if you're in a blind, and it doesn't matter if you're in, you know, just a little pop-up blind or if you're in a big old redneck, you know, or something like that, that crossbow is going to be way easier to use than a compound bow. And that's just the reality of it.
Especially if you have like a tripod set up.
You
I
can
would agree
leave
with
it
that.
on the tripod and not even have to mess with it. Hands-free, just hanging out, you know what I mean?
Yep. I
And
would agree
so
with that.
it was great. And my son got his very first deer this year. Well, this season, I should say, you know, because we're 2025 now.
Yep.
But second day of season was our very first hunt. And we were in a 2-man ladder stand that I put up for a buck that got shot last year. That I was after, that I had passed on the year before, that was always moving in there. I purposely put it up for that deer. But me and him had sat in that stand many a times, you know, previously. So he was familiar with it and everything. Well, of course, you know, he's got the crossbow. He's 9 years old. So we had a 25-yard spot right in front of us where, you know, there's a mowed path that goes right alongside the cornfield. And, of course, the corn's still up. It's October 2nd. And then it kind of wise on the opposite side. There's a little bit of creek there, and the opposite side is beans. So it's really a nice travel
good pinch
pattern.
point. Pinch point and travel.
And it's right between 2 bedding areas too, so it's pretty killer. Well, long story short, little man, right before dark. I mean, we had maybe 15 minutes of legal hunting light left.
Yeah.
And the buck, well, not the buck, but a buck that, you know, he'd wanted to shoot was down across that creek on the opposite side. So rather than coming right in front of us where he could just set that crossbow, you know, on the little bar across there, I had him standing up facing to the side So I'm trying to hold the crossbow while trying to help, stabilize him and everything. And he made a pretty good shot on it. We thought it died in that bean field within about 30 seconds. And it did go down. I mean, we could see blood just walking straight, plain as day the whole time. But it ended up getting up to the top of the field. And then he started just going along the field. I was like, dude, we're going to have to let him lay. And he was pretty bummed about that. But I came back the next day and he was dead within like 100 more yards. So that was pretty sweet.
It is weird how... Especially if you think, like, man, I smoked that deer and how far they can make it sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah, the buck I shot, we tracked it for, I thought I smoked it, and there's blood everywhere. The shot ended up being back. But, there was so much blood, I'm like, oh, this deer's dead, probably, like, within 100 yards. And we make it past that 100-yard mark, and we made it, I think, 350 yards in the end. And I was getting ready to back out, but luckily I had my buddy Kyle with me, and Kyle's like, dude, this deer's dead. There's so much blood, this deer's dead. And I'm like, well, we'll go like another 100 yards. And we made it another 20 yards, and there he was.
Nice,
so,
lucked out.
And I think if I came back the next morning, I wouldn't have lost any meat or anything, long as coyotes didn't get to it.
Yeah, right.
But it was nice. It's just... sometimes it's just surprising how far they can make it from time to time.
I have lost only a handful of deer ever. And 2 of those, I don't know how I didn't find them within like 50 yards. I mean, one of them, I watched my arrow go straight through it. I mean, it looked like it was perfect double lung, just stuck in the ground, watching it pour out blood, go to the end of the finger that I was hunting, and bed down. And I was like, that's awesome, I mean, it was exciting. There's this dude, I called him in. He was running does through the corner, everything, come out, had stock stuck in his antlers. Real nice deer, probably maybe 140 inches, but I was, I think, like 18 at the time. And I was stoked. I was like, that was sweet, It was one of the more exciting hunts up to that period, you know. So I sneak out and I like go like 200 yards out in the middle of this pin. It was a picked bean field at the time on the opposite side of that finger. And, swing out wide and everything, I go and get a couple buddies and stuff. We come back and we're like, damn, dude, the deer's gone. I was like, well, that's weird, giant pool of blood, and we went and grabbed the arrow. There's, a solid trail, like somebody was just pouring, gasoline more or less, and we never found that deer. We tracked it all through the end row of that cornfield. It went across a little ditch. I would say it was more of like a waterway, kind of like a drainage from a little old farm pond, and, then through the next cornfield on the inrows, it jumped the fence there, went into the hayfield, and there was 1 drop of blood in that hayfield, and never found anything after that.
It's crazy.
No idea. Never found it. Never found it during shed season or anything. No idea where it went, died, what.
It's crazy what deer can survive through.
Yeah.
This is. But anyway, so little man shot the deer, and then I think you're talking about. So what year did you get into thermal hunting, if you had to guess?
Oh, yeah.
You might not
Sorry.
know on top of your head.
No, you're good. I'm trying to think here. So we'll start with night hunting. Let's see. I've been thermal hunting for 4 years now.
Okay.
I would say. And night hunting for 7, maybe? This sounds accurate. Yeah. I would say I probably started night hunting about like 7 years ago and thermal hunting for probably 4.
Okay. So I guess what made you want to start being a dealer?
Well, I mean, kind of how I said before, I just kept getting more and more interested in it, right? So I was like doing research without doing research. You know what I'm saying? Like people keep up with stats, on their favorite football team and all this stuff. And I've never been that guy. I like sports, but if you ask me who's on these teams and they're not like the top 2 people on that team, I probably don't know because I don't care. But, you find your certain things that you're interested in and everything. And dude, I was looking up different specs on this. I was like, oh, I can't wait for that to come out. Like, I'm going to buy every scope that's on the market, right? But it was just something that really interested me. And I really liked it, and I liked watching people on YouTube and Facebook and, the TV shows and everything, doing their thing, hunting stuff. And I was like, yeah, that's sweet. I love that. And as I started being a user of it more and more and seeing how much more efficient you could be with it, that's more or less, with any hunting tools or tools in general anyways, it just makes you more efficient for your skill level, right?
Yep.
So I just kept on using it more and more and, getting more in tune with it and more familiar. And then it got to a point where people, locally and buddies and stuff, and even people that I was more or less just an acquaintance with, were reaching out and being like, dude, so I'm thinking about getting into the thermals and stuff. Like, what scope would you recommend, or stuff like this? And I mean, it got to where there was a lot of people, dude. Like, out of nowhere, I'm just like, why is everybody asking me? You know what I mean? Didn't even think about it or dawn on me, that it could be something that I was doing. And then probably about the second year that I started getting like dozens of people just randomly reaching out to me on Facebook and stuff, I was like, why don't I do this? You know what I mean? And so having a business is something that I've always wanted to do anyways. And there was something else that was maybe a little bit more, how do I say it? A little bit easier to start up and everything, and even probably a little bit more lucrative money-wise, but it just wasn't something that I was passionate about. And I found out quickly that that's not something you want to do for your business. Like, don't go chasing dollars because you're going to fucking hate it.
Yep.
And I did. I was like, I mean, I can do this stuff, but I felt just so odd, talking to people and everything. I was like, I don't even like doing this at all. So I think my mindset.
People can feel that passion,
right?
100%. Like, if you're not passionate about it, people get turned off on it. Is what I think.
And so, I mean, like I said, it probably would have worked out, and as far as like startup costs and everything, that was very minimal. I mean, almost anybody could have done that realistically if they just had the skill set. But it was, again, something that I didn't want to do. So I was like, all right, whatever, not doing this. So I kind of dropped that off. But then I started figuring out all the steps that I need to go to do this. And dude, it was tough. I mean, trying to get, manufacturers to deal with somebody that they've never heard of, that has no following, no nothing, you know what I mean? They're like, all right, well, do you have a brick and mortar? Do you have this, and you have to start jumping through all these hoops that you may or may not, have the means to do so. And I mean, realistically, literally, I took my life savings and put it into building this business, and it's going to work, you know what I mean? And I love it. Not even gonna lie, I really do like doing this, and I enjoy it. I like seeing everybody reach out. Like I told people, to add my 365 Snapchat, and dude, I get people all day long now sending me, hunting stuff, pictures, videos, stuff of their harvesting. I legitimately love that. I tell all my friends, like, I don't care if you shoot a doe, man. Like, why did you not tell me about this? You know what I mean? I like it. I like seeing it. Not because it's dead animals and stuff like that, but I like seeing their success, you know what I mean? And I want them to be happy about it. Like, just to go back real quick about my son and the buck and everything. If he wanted to shoot a spike buck, I would have let him shoot a spike buck. I don't care. It's his very first deer. His standards are not my standards, and I don't like that people try to put that on people that are beginners of any age.
I would agree with you.
You know what I mean? And that's a personal opinion, but that's my opinion. So that being said,
I think it's the right one.
I mean, he killed a really solid 9-pointer. I mean, I was probably 16 before I killed anything of that caliber, and I'd been hunting since I was 8.
So because it was such a nice buck, especially his first, are you mounting it?
It's European.
But, I didn't know.
I asked him if he wanted it actually mounted, and he told me no, and then he later told me yes. But I mean, if we really wanted to, I could get a cape and still mount it for him, So it's something that I may end up doing one of these days. He'll look back and be like, "Can we mount that?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure, that's fine." But I gave him the option to, because I was thinking about the same thing. But but that being said, back to the business thing. This is something that I really do enjoy, and I like seeing other people's success, and I like being helpful to people. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know everything. I promise you that. You know what I'm saying? Very humbly, I ask people for help all the time. You know what I mean? Not in like beg me, beg and help and thing. You know what I mean? But I'm not too proud to be like, hey, so I don't know about this. Enlighten me. Or educate me, stuff like that. And I think more people should do that. You know what I mean?
I would agree with you.
Because all it's going to do is help you in the future. And the more that you know, the more that you can help other people. You know what I mean? I can't help you with something that I don't know anything about. You know what I mean? So always improving on your skill set, your knowledge, stuff like that. I think that's great for people to do, no matter what it is, across the board. If it's a passion, health, any of that. You know what I'm saying? So I think it's something that I'm going to end up doing full time. Hopefully, maybe not so much in the near future, so to speak, but, definitely, you and I had talked about that. There's a deadline in mind, and it's coming, and I think it's going to be awesome.
No, but I don't think people realize, these passion projects and side businesses. They take a lot of work, a lot of time, and and I think a lot of people don't realize, like, I mean, we talk about thermals, they see the price tag, like, man, you must be making bank on these. But they don't realize, okay, obviously manufacturer gets a cut. Okay, and then the cut you get, okay, what's paying for this electricity? What's paying for this building? What's, like, for me, what's paying for the editing software, for all this stuff? Like, I make my own merch. All that stuff I had to pay for. Like, by the time you look at it, usually you're in the hole, at least in my account. And, it takes a while. But at the same time, if you're passionate about it, you don't care about it. Like, I would be doing what I'm doing even if I didn't have Thin Blue Outdoors. I'd still be taking you guys out, getting them into hunting and fishing and sharing my passion because I love doing it. Been doing it since I was a little guy. So I agree with you. I would encourage anybody who, if they really are passionate about something, they should try it at least. Like,
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, if you try it, at least you're not going to have any regrets. You definitely should try it at minimum. But I'll tell you, just from the growth I've seen from you in the last, since November, I feel like you're in a good, you're rising, and it's been fun to see, and your continual growth. I 100%, before we ever, agreed on any sponsorship or thing, I bought a thermal. I'm getting ready to go out with it the first time. I'm excited. A little bit of my thermal backstory. I just got into it last year. I went with, I got a team member named Ryan, the Redcoat. He took me out for the first time. He's running some weird model of thermal, but, we had fun. We didn't kill any coyotes that day, but we had fun. And then a high school buddy of mine, Jacob Woods, he has Coal Creek Outdoors. Went out with him, and I killed my first yote with the thermal that day.
Nice. And
he knew what he was doing. As soon as I shot it, he's like, so you going to buy one? I'm like, yeah, you got me. So, I'm still new to the thermal game, still learning, but I'm so far I'm enjoying it.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to see where you go with it, and so I started noticing thermal stuff probably 6 years ago. It's probably when I first came on my radar, because even before TBLO, I would go to the Iowa Deer Classic, the Illinois Deer Classic, and different shows like that just to spend my money, really.
Right.
And I would see thermals there, for sale, and I would see the price tag then, and I'll see, where the technology was. I'm like, hey, man, there's no way. Every year I've noticed, and I'm not big into it, the technology is getting better and it's getting cheaper.
It is.
Every year.
It is. And a lot of people think it's going the opposite way, because everything else that you're seeing around the world, inflation and everything's going up. But there's a lot of optics that are sitting right between you and me right now that are, hundreds of dollars cheaper than what they were in December. Literally, we got our new price list in January and they dropped. I mean, a couple $100, and it's just like, dude, that's awesome. And then, awesome. SHOT Show come out this past week, and everybody announced their new models and stuff, and they've got some more killer products coming out. And yet again, a lot of awesome stuff that is way better quality at a more affordable price, So it's becoming more popular, and also something that more people are definitely able to get into. I mean, there's thermals, that are decent enough to hunt with, for $800 for a scope. I mean, that's unheard of, like you said, 6 years ago. You'd be like, you'd be lucky to make out anything with a thermal for $800. You'd be like, I don't even know if that's my house cat over there at 20 yards. You know what I mean? I don't think they even had something that would work, for that price and quality at that point in time, but, and stuff's come a long ways, and everybody's now getting into, 1200 plus resolution and stuff, and they're starting to kind of phase out on the 256 and lower. So it's pretty crazy.
Yeah, it's cool. Well, here's what we kind of want to do, because again, I don't know how many people who listen to this podcast are big, I think a lot of them would be in like my category. They're either interested or have just started getting things. Okay. So if you want to talk about, let's just say you have a normal hunter who has a rifle already that he's going to put a scope on. If you just want to talk him through pretty much everything he needs to start, and you could give the different price points and like what you have and go from there. So wherever you want to start, scope, tripod, call, whatever you want to start with.
Well, it's funny that you said this, because I'm actually going to do a YouTube video on this at some point. So perfect. I will start by saying that even though I am a thermal dealer, you do not need a thermal to coyote hunt. You do not need night vision to coyote hunt. You do not need a hunting light to coyote hunt. You can go outside with a call. It could be a hand call. It can be an electronic call. I suggest an e-call. One takes you out of it. You know what I mean? Just like with turkeys, if you're not a very good turkey caller, sometimes that could be a little rough.
Yep.
But that being said, you have the availability to do so. You can go out there with a hand call or something like that, and you can go with a shotgun or any kind of rifle, and you can coyote hunt. You don't need all the expensive tech. That being said, again, it is a tool to make you more effective and efficient. So, and also at night, like I said, that's their normal travel pattern, man. They're nocturnal by nature, you know what I mean? So it is definitely going to give you a huge edge. I mean, people that I know that would not even kill a coyote, you know, in the daylight, you know, they might be filling up truck beds now. Maybe not so much, you know, in one night or something, you know what I'm saying? But, you know, over the time, you know, rather than killing maybe one a season, now they're killing, you know, 10 or 50, you know, depending on how much they actually, you know, are proactive and go into it. So that's just a little disclaimer. You do not have to have this stuff. But if it is something that you're interested in, it's something that you want, I definitely suggest it because it is going to put more fur in the truck. So the first questions that I'm going to ask when somebody's getting into it is, do you have something in mind? What's your budget? What weapon are you putting it on? What are your state laws? You know what I mean? So we got to go and figure out all these different scenarios to what works best for you. And also what kind of what terrain are you going to hunt? You know what I mean? What distance of shot are you looking at? You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
All of those are factors because your buddy might have a really sweet thermal, you know what I mean, that he's got on his AR, but you're wanting to put something on a bolt gun. You're not going to want one of these compact scopes majority of the time. I had somebody reach out to me the other day. They didn't buy from me, but, you know, they just happened to be part of my group, and they were reaching out asking what they were doing because they had a compact scope that they could not get the right amount of eye relief on, dude. They're like, so is there any sort of adapter or anything that I could put on this? I was like, no, unfortunately there's not, you know? So most people for a bolt gun, you're going to want a tube style scope, you know, like a 30 millimeter scope, you know, looks like a normal day scope for the most part, you know, except for all the tech that's on it, you know? The compact scopes, mostly for AR or custom rifles. That's just the reality of it, you know? And nothing wrong with either of them. They both work great. They both serve their purpose. You know what I'm saying? And then again, if your budget isn't quite there, like say you're a coyote hunter and you're wanting to shoot 300 yards, you know what I mean? The entry level thermals that I have, you know, like say 256, probably not going to get you there. You might be better off with a night vision. And some of those that I have, even myself, they have pretty good IR lights with them just right out of the box. You know what I mean? Something you'll probably want to upgrade at some point just to give you a, you know, wider field of view and, you know, a lot further distance. And that'll get you better than what a cheaper thermal will a lot of times. And people don't realize that. They're like, no. You know, this guy told me you want to stay away from night vision. You only want thermal. The biggest downside with night vision to thermal is that it'll splash on anything. So the way I put it is, if you walked out here to this wood line right in front of my house, you know what I mean? And it's night, pitch black, and you shine a flashlight, what are you going to see? You're going to see the very first row of trees and shrubs and stuff right there. You're not going to see through it or beyond it.
Correct.
And that is exactly how night vision works. Because it's just taking the ambient light and the infrared light, and it's using it as a flashlight, and it's going to splash on that first, you know, available cover. So that's where it runs into problems for people, whether that be a hedgerow or fence row. You know, maybe you own both sides, or you know what I'm saying, and you're trying to see beyond that. You know, maybe they go on the opposite side of the fence. You're probably not going to be able to see on the other side, or tall grass, stuff like that. You're going to lose whatever you're trying to hunt a lot of times in that. That's where thermal really outshines. And if you're somebody that does try to timber hunt with thermal, you're definitely not going to want night vision. You know what I mean? Just because of that exact reason. And, you know, like I said, they both serve their purpose. If you're hunting wide open hay fields and crop fields and stuff like that, and you're on a tighter budget, definitely go the night vision route. You know what I'm saying? There's nothing wrong with that. But starting out, those are all the things that you have to consider, you know? And then from there, I mean, your gear can go anywhere. Like you said, you know, I have tripods over here. If you're somebody that's going to do, you know, the traditional night hunting, majority of the time you're going to be standing up, you know, scanning around with your binocular, or, you know, if you've got a helmet rig or something like that, you're just scanning around until you actually, you know, get on a coyote or a fox or whatever else, you know, you're trying to night hunt. And then you're going to go over to your gun tripod, get down on it and shoot. You know what I mean? It's just sitting there for you. But you don't have to have that, you know? So rewind a little bit back to what we were talking about when I started out. I used to sit like I was turkey hunting more or less.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Up against a tree, on a field edge, and try to just scan around with my gun, just freehanding it.
Yep.
And I found out quick that wasn't it. So then I used a bipod, and, like I said, man, it just kept upgrading, right?
Yep.
And I didn't have anybody, I wasn't asking anybody at the time, like, hey, what can I do to, really improve on this and stuff. And that's another thing that makes me want to help other people, you know what I mean? Because I was that guy. I didn't have anybody to ask. I was just like, I'm out here winging it and just finding out the hard way that this sucks, and this is not working.
Yep.
And so what tools are available to make it easier? And that's all I just kept doing, man. I just kept plugging away, and it's not like I was upgrading something every month, like I said. I mean, I went from, lights to night vision binocular with night vision scope, and then a thermal binocular with a night vision scope, and then I finally doubled up on the thermals, and then I upgraded those thermals, you know what I'm saying? So it comes in a step process, especially if you're on a smaller budget, which I'm not gonna lie, at first I wasn't wanting to pour a bunch of money into it either, you know what I'm saying? I was like, well, maybe I'm gonna like this, I have a lot of interest in it. But until I actually started using it, and finding out that it was something that I fucking love. I mean, I was like, I don't want to pour a bunch of money into that, and there's nothing wrong with that. And I'll tell people that all day. If you're wanting to buy one of these scopes for a couple $1,000s and it's going to sit in your gun safe, save your money.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You could put it on something else. You know what I'm saying? You go spend it on your wife. She'll appreciate it a lot more.
Probably, yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
But if it's something you want to do and you're going to use it, man, I'll help you out.
Yep.
And I truly mean that. People reach out to me all the time, and I'm like, yeah, like that's what I'm here for. I want to help you. And that's another one of my goals, just as a business owner and for 365 Thermal. And I mean this wholeheartedly. I want to be the leader in customer service.
Nice.
And I mean
that's
that
great.
I mean that 100%. I mean, I tell people all the time, I was like, you can call and text this number, you can message me on Facebook whenever you feel. You're not going to bother me a bit. People apologize, and I was like, don't apologize. Like, that's literally why I'm here. I'm trying to help you. Like, that's fine.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? And I don't care that they didn't buy from me. I'm trying to help them. You know what I'm saying? I don't care.
Yep. I think that goes a long way. Obviously we've all have had, bad service and customer service somewhere, shape or form, somewhere in life. But even I know you and I talked about it in messaging a little bit about like these expos, these shows we go to. Man, I'm more like, if somebody's super friendly and talking to me and outgoing, I'm more likely to either buy from them or recommend, or both, their service or their product, whatever. I mean, I can say doing these shows, I've been to a couple booths that their product is good. I have no doubt about it. Their product was good. But their customer service was so bad, I have turned people off from them. Where like I'm not going to name drop right now, but I can think of one camouflage company. It was at the Illinois show. They had like 5 people working the booth. It had a great big booth, and I did buy a product to try, and it is good. I have no complaints. But their customer service was so bad. They had one guy that was worth a damn, but he was trying to run a whole booth that was like 5 or 6 booths, and they had everybody else just on their phone like, what do you want? And I've told people, I had one of the team members think about trying their stuff. I'm like, I want it, and they asked me why, and I told them, they're like, all right, good to know, I won't do it. And
that's tough.
Yeah, customer service goes a long way.
It does, and it sucks because a lot of people don't realize that. I mean, again, I'm kind of with you, I'm not going to name drop or anything, but there's been people where I've gone out of my way. They didn't try to reach out to me to buy their product, right? Like, I'm going out of my way to go, go and buy their product or look at it or something like that. And then it's the same as like what you said. They just really don't even care. They don't care that you're there. They don't care if you buy or don't buy, which I don't care if you buy or don't buy, but not in the same aspect. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like, that's on you. But I'm still going to be helpful, and I'm still going to, let you know what you want to know and ask you, if you have any other questions or is there anything else I could do for you? You know what I mean?
Yep.
And some of these people, like you said, it's just, they don't care if you're there at all.
Yep.
And it blows my mind. And even now, now that I have a business, I try to do stuff locally and try to support other small businesses and stuff.
Yep.
And I've tried doing that before I had my own anyways.
Yep.
But I could show you a list of people in just like my Facebook Messenger, because that's how they operate their businesses through, like Facebook pages and stuff. They won't even reply. And I'm like,
how are you supposed to give business, man? Like,
Yep.
I'm almost begging you to take my money, and you still don't want it. And it's, I don't know, man. It just blows my mind that that's
and
how
a
people
simple
are.
no thank you goes a long way. If they just send you a message, hey, like, we're not interested right now.
Yeah.
At least that's something, you know?
Yeah, right.
But
It's crazy. And I mean, and even some of them, they want the business, you know what I mean? But they just suck at it.
Yeah.
And they don't care. They're just like, oh yeah, sorry, I didn't reply for 3 weeks. Are you still interested in this? I was like, dude, I bought it online because you didn't reply for 3 weeks. You know what I mean? Like, it's tough.
Yep.
And, you know, I want to be helpful and everything. And sometimes, you know, I won't be rude about it, but, you know, I'll just, you know, put one in there and be like, hey, you know, just reach out again, seeing if, you know, you're interested in doing this for me, you know, and stuff. And that has worked in a couple of instances, but then they fall right back into it. And I'm just like, all right, well, this is not going to work out because I'm not going to continually, you know, help support that whenever it just makes it more of a hindrance on my part. You know what I mean? It's a pain trying to do work with you rather than just, you know, going a route that's probably cheaper and more efficient. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
So
We'll backtrack a little bit. So, okay, they bought their thermal, whatever that thermal was. They have their gun already. So tripod options. What's some good ones?
yeah, so sorry about that.
No, you're good. No, we're
Kind of
trust
going
me,
down these roads.
as people, if you listen to this podcast, we do it all the time. So we'll get to what we're trying to eventually, but we go all kinds of paths to get there.
Yeah. Highway to hey, look, a squirrel.
Yep.
So okay, back to the equipment thing. Yeah, I was thinking that. I was like, man, I didn't really finish that. So anyway, so yeah. So you've got a gun, you've got optic that you're interested in. I would say that there are several other options that are going to make you more effective. Again, if you're daytime hunting, you're going to want a bipod or a tripod. You know what I mean? Probably both, honestly. I hunt a lot of my tripod in the daylight now with a rifle on it and stuff like that. Just as effective. And especially if you're standing, which a lot of people think you're like, oh, you're standing in the daylight. Trust me. Do yourself some work, you know, look into it, use the wind, hide in the shadow a little bit, you know, off of a field edge or something, and it works great.
Yep.
But yeah, so I carry 2 Vets tripods, you know, one of the leaders in the industry. They're awesome. Great ball heads and stuff like that. There's plenty of options. You can, you know, mount it with an arc rail, or, you know, they have the Triclops clamp, which I actually use. A lot of people think that that's kind of silly, but I didn't want to drill holes in my gun. So, I mean, it really just depends, you know, and there, you know, there's M-lock stuff like that if you've got AR and custom rifles. So a lot of different options again, but a good solid tripod makes a huge difference. I was missing some shots, you know, prior to upgrading my tripod. I had a very well-known cheaper brand that worked great.
That's probably what I'm going to be running for a little while.
Yeah, and it worked great for a couple years. You know, like I said, I was upgrading equipment until the head wore out, and it did not have a ball head. It just had its standard one, you know, and it did, you know, up, down, left, right kind of a thing, and it worked out. But the head started to wear out to where it had just a little bit of play in it, and I mean, the slightest wind. And at 200 yards, it looked like I was dancing with my rifle. And I'm like, bro, this is not working out. So I upgraded and I got myself 2 Vets, and I run the kit, and it's awesome, dude. 3 pounds. And you know what I mean? It's just like any other equipment.
That's the one I moved, right? Before?
No, it's in the back of my truck.
Okay, gotcha.
We're actually in the middle of a coyote tournament. Last night we hunted all night, and then we're going out again tonight. But
what's the one I just moved a little bit ago? Because the first thing I noticed with it was super light.
That one is actually one of my old camera tripods that I still just use. That one's just a Coleman, but yeah. So I've got the QDTs, I got the Recons, I got No Name, and the kit. All those go to the max height. And people ask, you know, like, what's a good tripod for a tall dude? And I have a video on Facebook and TikTok and all that stuff. Those tripods set up without a ball head or anything on them are like a foot taller than me. So I mean, I'm just under 6 foot. You'll be fine, I promise. Yao Ming could use one of these and they'd be all right. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, they're killer and they're stable. You know, if you're looking for something a little bit heavier on the legs, you know, and especially just for the night hunters that you're not going to be sitting, the QDTs, you can't beat them. They're number one tripod for sure. You know. And it's got the little bit beefier legs that people like, but I use a smaller one. It's 3 pounds and it's light. And I also sit with it sometimes. You know what I'm saying? If I want to, I can sit with it on a little bit of it's like a stool chair thing that I use. You know what I mean? It'd be one that you could use in like a ground blind. But I use that because I can adjust it down like that. It's light and easy to pack if I'm walking a lot, which I do a lot of walking. And that's just preference, man. A lot of this stuff is, you know what I mean?
Yep.
That's what I'm saying. It's not something you have to have. But if you're wanting to hunt certain ways, you kind of do. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah. So there's, like 2 and 3 section tripods and stuff like that. Also, if you're day hunting and you don't want a tripod, a lot of times people use bipods, and those are great too, I've got a Swagger that I use. I put it on my 22 250, and I'll sit there and do the same thing. It works great. There's tons and tons of options for equipment, and that's just part of it. What works best for you and your style? You know what I'm saying? And like I said, you can figure a lot of that out whenever you actually talk to somebody and figure out, like I said, all the different questions, what are you hunting with? What's your experience? What are you planning to do with this? You know what I mean? What are your goals with it? And you kind of start filling in the blanks of what makes this person a hunter and how they hunt. You know what I'm saying? Just like you. I don't own a saddle. I probably would be okay with a saddle. I'm not saying I wouldn't, but I've got a shitty back. I don't know how they'd do with that. I don't know if it'd be good or bad.
So I would say the first season, I hunted out of it. I had one time I hunted 5 days in a row, almost all day sits. Some
would kill me.
some were, some weren't. And I noticed on the 4th or 5th day, my back was just a little tight. But that was it. Since then, I haven't felt that. But I think it's Grab It. I think it's Cody Grab It.
He's got a bad back too. He had back surgery whenever we worked together previously. Him and I worked together previously. I don't know if you knew that.
Yeah, I did that. That's he asked me if I knew you before he didn't know we were talking. I'm like, oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. No, he bought, I forget what they call it. It used to be called the recliner. I don't know if they still call it now, but it's just a strap that goes on your tether. And so it's a second strap, and you can put it underneath your armpit.
Goes up a little bit higher for support.
Yeah.
Nice.
And he says that's a game changer, which I never got it because I never felt like I needed it. But he's like, this thing's awesome. So, but it's for people who have bad back.
Yeah,
so,
interesting.
So, but I do enjoy my saddle hunting. But I also have regular stands and box stands. I hunt a little bit of everything when it comes to deer hunting.
Yeah.
All right, so we got tripods taken care of. We got your, gun and thermal taken care of. So, I've only been, like I said, thermal hunting twice. The first time, I was just scanning with the thermal. The second time, I was still only had the thermal, but my buddy had a monocular on his helmet.
Yeah.
I have noticed that right away he was able to pick up animals in general way quicker than me with that. I know that's not something you have to have, but it seems like it helps just a little bit. I know. I guess just your opinion on that, and then after that, if you want to kind of, because I know you're doing some tournaments, if you just want to go through like, what are you using right now? What's your, money's not an option. What are you using?
All right, so going back to that, are you saying that he picked up quicker with his helmet setup or with the monocular itself over? Or were you both just using binoculars, but his was helmet mounted? His
was helmet mounted. Mine, I was just using the scope. I was just using the thermal.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because he only had one, so he was the one scanning, and I don't think there was one time I picked up an animal before he did.
Yeah, definitely not. So it's actually really difficult to try to scan with your gun.
I've noticed.
Because unless you have a very, very small window of where the coyotes are going to be, and you know that 100% for fact, which is also very very unlikely that you're going to know that. I go and I locate coyotes and stuff, and I have a pretty good idea of where they're going to be. But I mean, at any given moment, anything in nature could change. You know what I'm saying? They could move 100 yards this way. They could move them all out that way. It might have been a fluke and the farmer come through and pushed them. You know what I mean? Just anything can happen. So that being said, I can't say unrealistic, but to have high expectations with it is unrealistic because it's going to suck. Now, there are people, because you can connect them to your phone. They'll connect it to their phone, and they'll sit there and stare at their phone and just swivel their gun back and forth. I would say I would say that is more effective than being down on your scope, because when you're down on your scope, two things are going to happen. You're going to be in a more uncomfortable position trying to hold that for a long period of time. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Because it's just not natural to have your neck kinked
I
down.
thought so. It was uncomfortable.
Yeah. And then the other thing is to scan the amount that you need to scan, even if you're not somebody that needs to scan past 180 degrees. You know what I mean? So just what's in front of you. Forget about whatever's behind you. You're going to find out quickly that you're just pivoting all the way around that tripod. You're just shuffling your feet the whole time. So that's extra movement, extra noise. You know what I mean? Stuff that you just really don't want to do. and they have great hearing and eyesight. So if it's if you're a little backlit or ambient light and brighter moon and stuff like that, they can pick up on that movement, And I try to, if I take new guys out or even some more experienced guys and they're doing a lot of movement, I'm like, hey, you're thinking that you're in the dark and they can't see you, but they can see you.
Yeah.
And it's just things that they don't think about, but it's just really uncomfortable. So with your monocular, you're going to pick up stuff so much faster. And that's why I say, again, thermal being, a lot better than night vision. All you have to do, you can scan quickly. I actually even scan 360 on a lot of stands because there's a lot of places, around here. What's across the road? Another freaking field that has another patch of timber. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's not that often that I set up right off of the road. Some people do that. They'll park and set up right there within like 50 yards. There are some places that I do that. But most of the time I'm going a little bit further because if I can call something in from across the road, I want to let them be able to come across the road so I have the opportunity to shoot them, you know what I mean?
Yep.
I don't want them to bust me because they wind me before they even get over there. You know what I'm saying? And that's just a minor detail that people don't think about.
Yep.
But you'd be surprised how many times that stuff that you didn't know was there comes in from behind you. And it does happen and it works out if you plan ahead.
Yep.
So with the monocular, you're just spinning quickly. And all you're doing is looking for a difference in that heat signature. You know what I mean? If you're using white hot, you're just scanning in the black, and there's a little bit of gray stuff. And then you're just looking for that bright white light.
Yep.
As soon as that happens, then you're pinpointed. All right, what is that? Okay. All right, no, that's a coon. All right, you just keep scanning. You know what I mean? Nope, that's a deer. And you just play that game until you find out what you're looking for. If it's a fox, coyote, bobcat, whatever. You know what I'm saying? And so it's a lot quicker, and a lot more effective.
Yeah.
So, and I mean, like I said, I scan 360, but I mean, I can just literally sit there and just do that. You know what I mean? And that works out great. So I would definitely say get a monocular. And a lot of people would rather spend the money on a high-end scope without a monocular and like, yeah, this sucks. I'm like, yeah, you'd be better off probably splitting the difference and getting two over one.
Already realized like I probably should have bought one. So that's coming in my near future probably.
Yeah.
So,
And like I said, man, even if it's something small just to pick up heat, it works great to get you started.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So nothing wrong with that. But going back to what I do, I just wanted to add something else with that too.
Yeah.
I would say that people should scan 360 more than they think because you don't know what's going to be just outside of your, vision or something like that, or something sneak in behind you. A lot of people don't think about that stuff, and you probably should because there's probably a lot that you're spooking off that you don't even know about. Think about a deer getting downwind of you, what I'm saying? And coyotes are going to primarily use the wind. Deer use it to their advantage. Coyotes use it to hunt 100% of the time. You know what I mean? Like if I'm calling, right here and my wind's blowing right towards you and they're coming in, they're not going to come straight at me. They're going to swing downwind.
Yep.
Almost always. You know what I'm saying? I said 100% of the time. That's not true either, but you get what I'm saying. Yep. Majority of the time, they're purposely going to go downwind of whatever sound that they're trying to pick up, whether it's, a coyote vocal or a prey distress. It doesn't matter. They try to go downwind. So you can almost bank on it. You know what I'm saying? So again, if you're not scanning behind you, and that's where majority of the time you have your wind for a lot of people, because that's how they think. They're like, oh yeah, I want the wind in my face. Well, okay, that's fine. I don't necessarily disagree with that for the most part, but what is behind you? Can the coyotes get there? Is there something they're going to come from where they're already there? You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
You want to be able to at least see your downwind side, and you should be at least scanning it. That's just my own personal opinion. I think it'll help out a lot of people if you do that. You know what I'm saying? Like last night, I killed a double on we called in 5 coyotes on that stand. They were all 5 coming in the same field, and they came in behind us.
Yeah.
There was one that we had located on the same side of the road as us. It's just a little dead end road. They own both sides. But we were going down the fence line and set up to where, we can see both sides, shoot both sides again. Because like I said, you just never know, right?
Yep.
Well, we had a coyote howling back and forth to us that was where we had thought that they were on the same side as us.
Yep.
And I just happened to be scanning behind us. These coyotes didn't make a peep. Not one. Not howl, nothing. And there was 5 of them. And we got them called in, and I ended up shooting 2 out of the 5. And I was just like, see? Like, this is what happens.
Yep.
And you know what I mean? You don't
Yep.
even think about it. And if you're just focused in on that one coyote that was howling back and forth, and it was a little ways away, we never even saw that coyote because, I shot those two before it even happened. But it was a little ways off. But if I just focused on that one that was howling and did not scan behind us, we would have never known that they were there. And we'd have 2 less coyotes in the truck. You know what I'm saying? So again, it's just something that people need to, consider and think about just a little bit outside of the box. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Just to be a little bit more helpful. But going back to another question you asked me, what equipment am I using? Okay, so I shoot a 243. I think that it is superior to many of the rifle calibers for predator hunting. I shoot a 58 grain VMAX, and those are about 4,000 feet per second coming out of it. Pretty quick, pretty flat. I like that. A little bit heavier grains, they'll do better if you make a bad hit. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
And they'll carry a little bit further if you're going to be shooting very longer, a lot longer ranges. But that's another thing. A lot of people think that they're going to be shooting like 500 yards at the thermal. You're going to need a really good thermal to be shooting 500 yards or a good scope with a high-end clip-on. So just so you know, I mean, somebody that thinks they're going to be shooting that with, like $1,000 thermal, I'm like, dude, you need to reconsider this. And so actually, my longest shot with a thermal still is 378 yards. And I only know that because we ranged it because it was a coyote, the darkest coyote that I ever shot. I should have got the hide tan because it was pretty well black. It's actually in that cover picture that I used for my for my 365 thermal group. The one that looks like it's black right there in front. Yep. That was the one that I made the longest shot on still to this day. And that's the only reason why we ranged it. Because I was like, dude, how long of a shot was that? Like it was again during tournament. So we're like, that was pretty sweet, and there's 3 of us. We had one guy with a monocular that was literally just there just to go and hang out because he wanted to, see what it was like and enjoyed it and stuff. And then me and the guy that's still my partner now. And so that was pretty sweet. But so going back to it, 58 does great. I shoulder shoot them, don't have a tracking job. You know what I mean? I use AGM adder. I don't think you could beat the battery life. I'll probably still use an AGM adder whenever they come out with these V2s that they're going to be releasing to us. They said probably in February or March.
Right towards the end of season.
But that's all right. It gives you time to, go and practice with it and stuff. And that's another thing that people don't consider. They don't practice with their equipment, with thermals and stuff. You know what I mean? Well, with a lot of stuff, hunting is terrible for that. A lot of people do not practice like they should.
Well, day before season, I'll get this bow out.
Right. Or, the thermal, they're like, all right, well, it was sighted in last year. Let's go throw some fur in the back of the truck. You know what I'm saying? But you really should take the time to get to know your equipment no matter what it is. So that being said, I mean, you're going to have everything, like for me, for instance, right? If you buy in the summer, with these new models that were just released and stuff, I'm going to have everything in stock. You're going to have time to play with it, figure out what you do and don't like about it. You're going to have time to get it all sighted in, dialed down, know what knobs do what or what buttons, you know what I mean? And you'll have everything all set up and ready to go, and you're familiar with it. So then when you take the guesswork out of it, when it's dark outside, again, you're just being more effective with your equipment. And that's another thing people don't understand. A lot of people, for instance, like the scope that you bought. I know which one you bought. Yeah. A lot of people use that as a monocular, too.
That's who told you? Might have been. Somebody told me that, too. So that's what I've already thought. For next year, do I buy a binocular or do I upgrade and use that as binocular?
Well, see, here's the thing. A lot of people think that they're going to use. There's another one that just come out from another manufacturer. Awesome scope. But its biggest selling point is that you could take it off and use it as a monocular and put it right back on your gun and shoot with it. Okay. Most people don't consider the fact that you're trying to do that in the heat of the moment while you're hunting, while a coyote's running into you. And I can promise you, as somebody that's accidentally shut off their scope several times while trying to record, that is not the time that you're wanting to mess with your scope. I even had that happen one last night, man. I got lucky because it was, several hundred yards away, but it was coming in quick. And just, because I'm wearing gloves and, I just reached
Fat
up
finger
and,
in it. Yep.
well, yeah, more or less, and it was, pure habit. I just knew where the button was. I didn't think that I was going to hit my power button by accident.
Yeah.
And I accidentally hit the power button. So here it is counting down, shutting off in 3, 2, 1, going black. I'm like, shit. I was like, I got to get this thing up,
Yep.
And of course, there's a little delay from when it shuts off to when you could shut it back on or turn it back on. And I'm like, come on, man, turn on. And it turns on, and I still had plenty of time and, got the coyote killed.
Yeah.
But there's been situations whenever I was extremely new that I'd done that and it did not work out.
Yeah.
Coyote was there and taken off because, again, I was not familiar with my equipment. Last night was pure mistake. Like I said, I hit that button all the time. I know where it is. I don't even have to think about it.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? It was just like you said, more or less I fat fingered it. You know what I mean? But it happens.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't like taking it off. I was thinking, like, if I do it, it's because I bought a new scope.
Yeah,
and
right.
Then,
I was getting what you were saying. I'm just saying that a lot of people don't think about that stuff. They want something they could use for both at the same time. And I was like, great concept, very hard to implement. I don't think that that's going to go as well as what they think it's going to when they actually try to use that scope in that way for the same reason that I thought. I mean, trying to slide that back in the mount in the pure dark while you're actually, literally using it as a scanner. I mean, you're going to want to try to keep eyes on and everything all the same time. And you're going to be sitting there fiddling with it. Probably going to be banging around on your gun. I mean, I don't think it's as practical as what they're hoping.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, they think they would perform better than what they really will. I can just speak from like the law enforcement side of things. So you go through police academy and you have your basic level of training, and they completed their 40-hour firearm class. So you get these young rookie cops think, oh, I'm good to go. And then like we have our local CERT team that I'm on, and we'll get guys that've been on patrol for a couple years. Cool, I'm going to get on the local CERT team, and now we're going to start messing with the rifles more, transition drills, all this, and they think they're going to do all of this cool thing. Well, they find out just on the range, it's a lot more difficult, especially when we add, hey, you have 7 seconds. We want you to do 3 rifle rounds, and then, drop your gun, pull out your pistol, do 4 more,
right.
And so you got 7 seconds. You're like, oh, plenty of time. And then they're panicking. Or my favorite thing to do is we'll get these, young guys who are starting to get the hang of it, and then we go, okay, simunition training. There's a bad guy in that house with the sim guns. You got sim guns. Good luck. Go get them.
Yeah, right.
And you could tell they're like, hold on.
Dude, I love those 9mm sims.
Yep.
They're awesome.
And everybody thinks, even them who thinks, oh, we're going to perform better. But in that heat of the moment, you see the bad guy coming around the corner at you. They're getting ready to shoot you. They're like, oh, God. And it's just a lot of things. It's a lot more difficult than people realize.
It is. And I mean, you think training, but it's the bare minimum most of the time for training.
Yep.
How many videos do you see, because we all just, doom scroll or whatever. Yep. How many videos have you seen just scrolling through Facebook or something where, there's like a stack of like army guys getting ready to go into a building and one instructor takes them all out with those sim rounds.
Yep.
Every single one of them is laying dead in a pile. It's just like, dude, you guys fucking failed, like terrible at this.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
And it's because it's training, but it's bare minimum training. It doesn't necessarily prepare you for real life situations until you're there. So there are some things that you're just going to learn from experience.
And there's one thing that people, obviously we got people who aren't cops or military that listen to this. We're talking about training and this happening in training in the heat of the moment. Yes, it's a little different because, we're working on getting somebody who's actively trying to hunt us, trying to hurt us. But like the adrenaline's still the same, whether I'm going to do a search warrant or I got a coyote coming in. It's the same. Your body's still going through the same level of adrenaline. So that's why I'm saying, like, well, at least we're practicing. As we both said, hunters don't practice as much as they should. If they practice, it's usually just at a flat range, taking your time shooting, not heating the moment or anything like that.
Yeah.
So.
And again, you want it to be second nature. You want it to be muscle memory because if you practice enough, it will become those things. And the reason why is because whenever you are stressed out, whenever it is the heat of the moment, as you alluded to, and stuff like that, you don't have to think about it. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Your body is automatically going to react to something that it's already done several times. You know what I'm saying? Just like I said, I didn't even have to think about which button I had to push. You know what I'm saying? Because I was so familiar with it. You know what I mean? It's just second nature. Do people make mistakes? Yeah, of course. You know what I'm saying? That's part of living. But if you do it more, you're going to be better with it. That's just how it is. You know what I mean?
Yep. Videotaping my hunts. The first couple of years I struggled because it was all I was learning. Now, we're 5 years into filming. It's like, I'm reaching for it. I know where my camera arm's going to be. I'm automatically reaching for it. It's just second nature. So yes, you can train, but also just takes obviously a little bit of time
Yeah.
on the field too. So, anything else we should cover? You think? We're almost an hour, so.
I don't think so. I didn't. I mean, I didn't add what I was what I was using for equipment. I didn't finish that off.
Oh, go ahead and finish it. Go ahead and finish it. You're good. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
I was just thinking about it. I was like, I mean, I guess I did. I use the kit V2. It's 2 vets tripod, and I use a 55 millimeter ball head with a triclops because I can switch off any gun with that. Like I said, I day hunt and stuff and everything. You can use thermals in the daytime, believe it or not, people. A lot of people don't think that you can. You can use the day-night scope, which are night vision. And you can use thermals, and you can use both those in the day, and it doesn't matter. But I still prefer an actual normal scope during the day, unless I'm going to be literally at dusk, where if I'm calling something in, I might get stuck. You know what I mean? Being like, if I had 5 more minutes of light, I could have shot him. You know, unless, of course, it's out of night season. Then you don't have a choice, and it's just a risk you take just to go coyote hunting. You know what I mean?
But, what e-color?
That's what I was going to say.
Okay.
Fox Pro X24.
Okay.
Love it.
Are you only running the collar, or do you run in with a decoy with it?
No. So at nighttime, that's something that I'll actually warn people against. Don't use a decoy at nighttime.
I didn't know this. So this is, what's the reason?
There's a good possibility it's going to get ripped off by an owl within like the first 2 sets you do.
I never thought about that.
Dude. Even just last night, we had owls come in on us, probably 6 or 7 stands.
Yeah.
One of them scared the shit out of me. We were set up right next to these round bales. There's a wall of round bales on the edge of this hayfield. And the only thing that's there is just literally an empty fence row. There's no trees or nothing. So we didn't expect anything to come from that other side. And we weren't literally set up against it, but we used it, for back cover. You know what I'm saying? Well, we're just scanning around, and again, just out of habit, I scan a little bit further behind me, and I'm not even shitting you, like 25 yards away from me, right there, right in my thermal, which has a 2X base mag, is an owl that just at first glance looked like a coyote standing on top of this round bale 20 yards from me, and I jumped. I was like, oh shit. But it was an owl, man. They love it. They can't handle it. And sometimes if you have the collar set really close to you, they'll get nosy, and you'll just be like, what is that? And you'll see it just looks like a spaceship just going through in the night, and then you're like, oh shit, and they're swooping you and everything because
I never thought about that.
If you're doing a good job calling, you'll see it in the trees. You'll see raccoons, you'll see hawks, owls. Yeah, dude, they come alive whenever you got a bunch of prey distress going on. And even coyote fights, surprisingly, they'll still, it's a predator. They're like, I wonder what they're fighting over. You know what I mean? Like, is it a food fight? What you guys got left over for me? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I never thought about that because I've coyote hunted during the day, my whole life before, and I've called in hawks and stuff before that. Which I always think is cool. You got your decoy out there and they're circling it, whatever. I'd never thought about night.
Don't do it at night.
Yeah, that's good to know.
They will run off with it. One of my guys messaged me the other day, and he said that one took off with his. I was like, oh no. He's like, that's okay. He's like, I watched him drop it. I think I'll be able to find it because it realized that it wasn't real. But don't use a decoy at night. They'll just rip it off.
That is good to know.
But during the day, it could be helpful. In the right situations and stuff like that. You got a wide open field and you don't have a lot of cover, so you want something more or less to distract them from where you're at. You want to offset that to where they're not going to be looking right, right in your direction. Offset it out in the field or whatever. Offset your call again from that to where that's more or less downwind of it, and you're kind of gold. You know what I mean? And that's not a bad deal.
Well, good to know. Well, number one, I want to thank you for coming on the podcast. And we've been talking about it for a month and a half now. So I'm happy you were on. I'm happy to see the place. I think you've done a good job looking in here. You've done a good setup. I'm excited to see where this business takes you. Do you want to just plug all your links and stuff like that before we close this podcast?
Yeah, sure. I want to say thank you, and I appreciate it, and thanks for coming out here, man. It's pretty awesome. Happy to be help, and support you also. That being said, 365 Thermal on Facebook and 365thermal.shop for my website. All of my products are on my website. Everything over $250 ships for free. No sales tax or anything outside of Illinois. So if you're listening to this all over the U.S., you don't get sales tax if you're outside of Illinois, and it's free shipping. So that's for all my optics. There's no exceptions. So I have a 365 thermal group, you know, that we had talked about a little bit. I do certain events in there that people would like to partake in. That's pretty cool. A lot of fun on that one. And I think we're up to 1,700 members. And then, I mean, I'm on like all the social stuff. I got a YouTube, you know, 365 Thermal. I've got X or Twitter, whatever you want to call it. Thermal 365 on Snapchat. Feel free to add me. Send me your coyote pictures. I love it. So, yeah, follow along, chat. Feel free to hit me up, man. It doesn't matter to me.
Awesome. Well, thanks again, Wade. We will, whenever you do the YouTube how to start thermal hunting, we'll share it on our end. We're going to do a very similar video as well. And then we got a lot of predator hunting coming up in our near future. Jason, the Polish Hammer, he's been laying them down in Southern Illinois. So I got a lot of videos coming from him. So that's going to be awesome. And we'll have all of Wade's information attached to those videos as well. Check them out. Again, thank you. Everybody else, be safe out there.
Thank you.